Hi superstars, welcome to another week of STEM. Here are some clues to the adventure we'll be taking today. If you guessed that we were going to be learning about wetsuits, you were correct. You know, people wear wetsuits for many different reasons. Surfers, spear divers, scuba divers, windsurfers, triathletes, swimmers, boogie boarders. There's a good chance that even you have a wetsuit in your garage for swimming or surfing or boogie boarding. They're super useful and helpful to keep you warm when water temps are low. You know, the wetsuit was invented in 1951. That's about 70 years ago by a physicist named Hugh Bradner. Hugh was a student at Berkeley when he wanted to design a surf suit for military underwater swimmers. The first wetsuits were made out of untreated strips of foam called neoprene. These suits were actually very delicate and tore easily. This early design did not have an inner lining, so people would have to powder themselves with talcum powder so that the suit wouldn't stick to their skin. About 20 years later, in the 1970s, a new design came out. This new wetsuit design had an inner lining of nylon, so people didn't have to put powder on and the neoprene wouldn't stick to their skin. Engineers also used a double-back neoprene system where they would sew 2 layers of neoprene together. It sounds simple, but when they actually had to punch holes through the neoprene, it created big openings for water to go through. Finally, in the 1990s, about 40 years after the very first wetsuit, a new kind of stitch was invented. It's called the blind stitch technique. We'll be learning more about that stitch shortly. Wetsuits work because of thermodynamics. You see, your body wants to stay a cozy, warm 98.6 degrees, and that's usually warmer than air or water that you have around you. If 2 different things have different temperature, that means that the atoms and molecules are moving at different speeds. Warm things have more energy than cool things. So your body particles are bumping around into the air and water particles, and you're transferring energy. Now, water is better at conducting heat than air because the molecules in water are moving more densely packed. And because of this, you will get much colder much more quickly in water than in air. So you see, the invention of the wetsuit is revolutionary. People could now tolerate extended periods of time in cold water. So I thought it'd be fun to come down here to Encinitas and visit Hanson's and talk to a wetsuit specialist, not this guy. His name's Richard. Let's go inside and hear what he has to say about wetsuit designs. All right, Hanson's. And this is Richard. He's looking through some of his suits here.
Hi, how you doing? So, what we have is neoprene wetsuits. They're made very warm these days. One of the main features about wetsuits is the blind stitch. So this is a blind stitch, and it's watertight, airtight. It's a very strong, flexible stitch, and a lot of the times the blind stitch is also glued, and it's taped in reinforced areas that get a lot of stress on them. So like the blind stitch is a very warm, durable stitch. It's predominantly in most of the higher end wetsuits.
Okay.
And this is a neoprene rubber. This is a rip curl, a very good suit. It's got some heat holding material on the inside. It's called flash bomb lining. And this also has tape over the inside of the glued and blind stitch seam, which is a very good seal. So after months and months of use, the water does not slowly leak in and you don't feel it coming in quite as quick. It's just a blind stitched and a glued seam. So There's different thicknesses. Some of them are 4 millimeters and 3 millimeters. Some are 3 millimeters and 2 millimeters. The thicker ones, the 4.3s, are warmer. They're a lot warmer. This morning I wore a 3.2, and that's much more flexible. And it's for, about the temperature for like fall, spring for a 3.2, and winter a 4.3. Like dead of winter, like December, January, February, usually go 4.3. Keeps you much warmer. It's nice to be cozy out there when it's very cold, and the offshore winds can get cold in the morning too. But the different rubbers, sometimes there is a glued or a liquid tape over the outside of the glued and blind stitch. That helps seal it, helps it be more durable. And a lot of the times there's this rubber right here called smoothie. That blocks the wind. Wind will not blow through a smoothie through that rubber. It's very warm when you're sitting up on your surfboard and stuff. And the sun also beats down on this black, thick material, and it heats up, and it keeps your skin and your body warm. So smoothie is a good option for a warm wetsuit. It's a little bit heavier, and it tears a little easier. It's not quite as flexible as just straight neoprene.
Is that smoothie design, is that kind of a newer design in the last decade or so?
No, smoothie's been around since like the 80s and 70s and stuff. It's just, it's a good, it's a very warm material, but it's not very flexible, and it's a little heavier, not quite as mobile. But it's been around for a while. The smoothie actually has. I remember being a kid having smoothie on my wetsuits in the 80s and stuff. And but yeah, then we have like super thick ones. This is like a 5.5 and a 4.5 millimeter, made by Excel. A very, very warm. It's called the dry lock. It's a 5.4 millimeters. It does have. This is called a sealed seam. Now that's like the most warm seam there is out there. It's actually got a glued and blind stitch, but then it's sealed with this rubber over it. Very, very warm, doesn't let water in and out. But this is for something like up in Northern California or Oregon, down in Baja or something. The wind's just howling offshore. It comes with a hood. And the hood is lined with smoothie, that thick rubber that the wind doesn't blow through. And then it's got glued and blind stitched. It's taped throughout the entire thing on the inside. It's completely lined with this heat holding material. And there's the tape over the inside of the heat in it. Keeps it next to your skin, keeps you very warm in the coldest of waters, like in low 50s. This is a very good suit. It's a little bit more money, but it has all the bells and whistles. It has the smoothie on the chest and back. Very, very warm. Built-in hood. Great suit right there.
Richard taught me a lot about different designs and styles of wetsuits, and we're going to hear a little bit more from him when we do experiment number 3 at the end of our video. So I wanted to find out what animals thrive the best in cold climates, and here's what I came up with. So many animals have adapted to cold temperatures. The ultimate deep freeze winner is the wood frog in Alaska. It has a record of being frozen for nearly 7 months. This is a snow leopard. They have white and soft gray or yellowish coats with spots of black on brown. Their markings are a good camouflage for when they're trying to hide from their prey in the snowy terrain. Their thick fur and furry tails and their paws make them perfectly suited for cold, dry mountains where they live in Central Asia. Walruses typically live in the North Pole, in like the shallow waters of the Arctic seas. They have large, blubbery bodies that help keep them warm in the freezing waters. A lot of times the temperature can drop below 0 degrees. This is a narwhal. It's a medium-sized toothed whale. You see that large spear? It's actually a tusk from a canine tooth. It lives in the Arctic waters around Greenland, Canada, and Russia. About 40% of a narwhal's weight is made up of blubber or fat. And this blubber helps keep them warm just like a wetsuit. It also provides them buoyancy, which means it helps them float. Beluga whales have a lot of blubber, and that blubber allows them to survive in the freezing waters of the Arctic and subarctic seas. Their color also helps them blend in with that icy habitat. They have a large bulb on their head. It's called a melon, and it's an echolocation organ that helps them hunt and navigate in the water below the farthest reaching sheets of ice. Are you noticing that a lot of these cold climate animals have blubber? That blubber is a thick layer of fat tissue that helps insulate or keep the animal warm. So we've learned a lot about how animals have adapted to stay warm in cold areas. And our first test is going to be testing how blubber will help keep a whale or a seal warm. To start, I want you to get just a bowl of water and then put a bunch of ice cubes in it. Then I want you to take your hand and I want you to submerge it into the water and see how long you can hold your hand in the water. And I'm going to look at my watch. Maybe you look at the clock on the wall or ask Alexa to keep time for you. And we'll see how many seconds you can keep your hand in the water. Here we go. Ooh, that is cold. Okay, there's 10 seconds. That's really cold. Oh my goodness. Okay, 15 seconds. I would not want to be a whale or a seal swimming in the Arctic. All right, 20 seconds. Oh, that is too cold for me. So, to test how blubber works, you need to get 2 sandwich bags. Okay? With your sandwich Ziploc bags, we are going to create a layer of, actually our blubber today is going to be oil. So the first thing you do is take one of your Ziploc bags and turn it completely inside out. And with your other Ziploc bag, you're going to keep it right side, the right way, but you're just going to flip the top. Okay? I'm just going to flip the zip part. So, looks like that. Then take your inside out bag and carefully put it inside your other bag. You might see where we're going here. Now we're going to flip down the inside out bag and it's going to able to seal up with your second Ziploc. Now, I told you we're going to be using oil as our blubber. See if we can feel a difference between having no insulation. That's when we just took our hand in the ice. We had no insulation. And now we're going to see if we can tell the difference if we have a layer of blubber. So I'm going to use my tape to seal these 2 bags together. We're putting them in water. We want it to have a decent seal. All right, but I'm not going to seal it all the way because I want to be able to put my oil into the layer between the 2 gloves. So this is where you might ask a sibling or a parent to help. Then I'm going to take my oil and I'm going to measure out, probably a cup of oil. I'm going to carefully pour it in. Like I said, you might get a buddy to help you with this part. Between the 2 layers. And keep sealing up. Your 2 baggies. Okay. Now, you can see the oil inside there. I used 1 cup of oil. And now I'm going to stick my hand back in there. I can't feel the oil, but I can see it's there. All right, now I'm going to submerge my hand again and see how long I can keep it in. Ooh. I hardly even feel it. Ooh, I can feel it a little bit. Okay, this is definitely more tolerable than the first time with no insulation. See how many seconds you can keep your hand in with your blubber glove of oil compared to how long you can keep it in with just your hand. So for our second experiment, you get to pick what is the different insulation material that you want. Instead of oil, maybe you want to use paper towels. Maybe you want to use a scarf. Maybe you want to use cotton balls. Maybe you want to use something like sugar or whatever you want to try and experiment with. You're going to set up the same way. You're going to take 2 Ziploc bags. Take the first one, turn it inside out, completely inside out. The second one, you're going to turn just the top open, and then you're going to slide the inside out baggie into the other. And then now's when I'm going to add my paper towel. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of paper towel that I wanted to use. I'm going to fold them, and I'm going to actually carefully put them in between my 2 bags. Okay. And I'm going to fold down my inside out bag. I'm going to seal it by attaching the 2 zippers. Oops, that's not sealed. There we go. It seals pretty nicely. And then I'm going to add a little tape. This time I'll use my painter's tape. Actually, what I can do is I can just seal it right to the outside of the bag. That works too. Push down on it nice and tight. All right, then I can stick my hand inside. I got my little blubber glove. I can stick my hand in. You could also go back and try it without any glove at all and then do your blubber glove. Oh, this is, again, this little bit of insulation sure does help my hand feel much more comfortable in this cold water. When you're done, compare how many seconds you could keep your hand in the icy water. First with no glove at all, to the oily blubber glove, and now to your free choice glove. Which glove insulated the best? So I came across this incredible study through MIT, which is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This private research university is in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Look what students there are working on.
Inspired by hairy semi-aquatic mammals such as beavers and sea otters, a group of MIT engineers are fabricating fur-like rubbery pelts to learn how these mammals stay warm and even dry while diving underwater. The group's research was initially motivated by a visit to a company who manufactures wetsuits. The company was interested in developing materials that would keep surfers warm and nimble while they move in and out of the water.
So our first thought was to take inspiration from biological systems, and we started looking at animals that are small and agile but have to survive in Arctic environments and spend part of their time underwater and part of their time on land. One of the interesting things we learned about these marine mammals is for small mammals that can't carry around a lot of blubber but still need to maintain warmth, have a very specialized fur that traps air when they dive underwater.
And so what we're interested in doing is trying to understand what parameters of their fur, how fast they're diving, the properties of the liquid, how do these all come together to inform us how the air gets entrained.
For their experiments, the team fabricates precise fur-like surfaces of various dimensions using molds and a soft casting rubber. They then plunge the surfaces in liquids with varying viscosity and at varying speeds. Then, with video imaging, they're able to measure the amount of air that is trapped in the fur during each dive. What they found was the spacing of individual hairs and the speed at which they were plunged play a large role in determining how much air a surface could trap. Based on these findings, the team developed a simple model to describe this air-trapping effect in precise mathematical terms that can be applied to various materials manufacturing processes.
For example, wetsuits are now made of thick neoprene rubber, but what if we used a much more lightweight material, something with a hairy texture, and instead of using rubber, we're using air for insulation, and it could be a lot more lightweight and still effective in water.
That sounds incredible. And actually, it reminded me of a suit that Richard shared with me at the very end of our interview. Check out this cool airtight material.
So this is called hollow fiber. There are actually little circular cells that trap your body heat air inside these little cells. They trap air. Doesn't fill up with water. So all these little circles you see here and these little dots, those are little cells that fill up with your body heat's warm air, and it holds that next to your skin while you're surfing and in the water, instead of letting your body heat up the little bit of water that's trapped in the neoprene next to your skin. So this is a very advanced technology. It's on the front and back, and yeah, it works very well, and it's, like I said, it doesn't fill up with water, so it's lightweight. It just fills up with little air pockets that your body heats up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Richard, for taking the time, and have fun designing your own futuristic wetsuits. So your third challenge is to design an airtight wetsuit for the next generation. How will you keep the water out of your wetsuit? The wetsuit market is over $1 billion industry. Wouldn't it be great to be a part of such a fun, innovative, and useful product? I hope you all had fun experimenting with insulation. I'll see you next week.